listen, as a city, it's just, you cannot compare it, sorry, to New York or Los Angeles.
Can't be nice compared. To hear that.
Can't be compared.
It's nice to hear it.
I mean, that's not news to anyone, right? I mean, no one...
Not to us.
Don't say that in the green room of the mothership. Yeah. They'll stab you.
Well...
All right, so on the latest episode of the We Might Be Drunk podcast, Tim Dillon explains why he never moved to Austin like everyone else did when Joe Rogan opened up the mothership. And overall, it seems like he's not really on board with that whole place becoming the new hub of comedy. And as you'll hear shortly, Tim has some pretty valid reasons for never moving there, with the first one being that the city of Austin itself is simply a bad place to live.
I think that moving to Texas is over.
Really?
This is my. I could.
You putting your foot down was, I think, a big part of that, probably.
No, it wasn't. Well, maybe it was. But so. I just, the city of Austin, Texas. Let's be very honest, is dangerous. The homeless there are more aggressive than I've ever seen them in New York.
Yeah.
There's pockets of it that really do look San Fran-like.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Like as a metropolis, it's bad.
It's pretty
brown.
small.
It's small. It's brown. There's no grass. It's not green. It turns brown. For 4 months out of the year, it's over 100 degrees. The lake is vomit colored, and there are brain-eating amoebas that can swim up your nose and kill you within 48 hours. It's rare, but it happens.
Wow.
In Austin, Texas.
Yeah, in all the hot lake states, when you get in the lake and go, ooh, this is nice and hot, instead of a glacial lake.
Wow. Eat the brain.
So yeah, Tim Dillon's not really buying into the hype of Austin being the new place to be if you're a comedian, which is honestly pretty refreshing to hear from a guy who lingers in that Rogan sphere. Because usually a lot of these guys just blindly kiss the ring of Joe Rogan in order to stay on his good side. But Tim Dillon is a true New York comedian. So no matter how many millions of dollars Joe Rogan pours into that mothership, Tim Dillon just refuses to believe that it'll ever be any better than New York or even LA for that matter.
I'm just talking about, let's be very honest about the actual city.
Mm-hmm.
Suburbs are nice. The people are cool. I love Texas. I love Dallas.
Yeah.
I like Houston.
Yeah.
I like San Antonio better. Like, the actual city of Austin is 4 blocks, and one of them is just 20-person brawls, like melees, that are broken up by horses. Like, and so I don't even know what we're talking about.
It's fun to visit.
Yeah.
Pop in for the weekend, pop out. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Tim even got Mark Norman to see through the Austin facade here, which is actually pretty funny, because Mark appeared in that trailer for the new documentary coming out on the Austin comedy scene, titled Nighthawks, The Rise of Austin Comedy, which might I just add is extremely cringe. I mean, the amount of self-glazing that these guys do is just absurd. And Mark mentions this in the podcast, saying that if you have to advertise a city as the next big thing, then it's probably not that.
But also, all these towns you go to, they have to tell you how great it is, which is like a person who posts their wedding photo every day, and you're like, you guys are going to break up.
Great thing about New York, everyone shits on it. If you go, New York sucks, you go,
yes.
Even the people that love it go, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you have no idea how much it sucks. I'll tell you why it sucks. And we own...
That's because we love it.
Because we love it.
Exactly. And
my wife's a whore. You ever going to leave her? Of course not.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love whores.
Right. That's the,
But you don't have to blow New York every day because it's already great.
Another great point that Tim brings up is that Austin attracts both extreme sides of the political spectrum. Like on one hand, you have the very liberal people who had already lived there before the great Joe Rogan migration. And on the other hand, you have all the Black Rifle coffee dads who have made trucks, cigars, and guns their entire personality. So as a result, you have this melting pot of the worst kinds of people America has to offer, all crammed into this one small, boring city in the middle of nowhere in Texas.
Part of the thing with Austin, too, is it's the worst of the right and the worst of the left. Like, everyone's either like a Proud Boy who's like ready to get in a brawl, or it's like a non-binary blue hair dreadlock gremlin.
They push each other to further
You're like,
length.
What is it? You go, is there any normal human? Is there like a person?
Right.
The only normal people are like college kids or, tourists.
That's a good point.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think they push each other so much that they end up like circling around and becoming the same thing.
Tim, Mark, and Sam Morril then go on to all agree that New York and LA are far superior for comedy than Austin will ever be, which is pretty interesting because most comics in this Rogan sphere will usually shit on LA, since Joe Rogan has desperately tried to sway the public into believing that it's on the verge of collapse for some reason.
You left, Tom left, and not like you're left forever. It's not like you're like...
I've left forever.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're like cannot go back to there to visit, though.
I'm not going back to visit.
Really?
Fuck that place. I despise the government there. I despise it. I despise their smugness, the way they feel it's okay to close down restaurants and businesses, the way they feel it's okay to just tell people that you have no choice.
But even though Los Angeles has its drawbacks, Tim, Mark, and Sam still enjoy it more than Austin, which coming from 3 New Yorkers is pretty insane to hear. And you probably wouldn't be hearing this from them if Joe Rogan had never started the movement of LA being the worst city to ever exist.
Yeah, it's just like a weird. It's
Well,
like
the
odd.
problem with New York and LA, they're so different. Like New York is like a family that's constantly yelling at each other, and like
Right.
shut the fuck up. Ah! You're like, Jesus Christ, my family's dysfunctional. Then you go to LA and no one talks. That's like
Right.
a family who never speaks, and
Right.
you're like, so
Yeah.
which one is better? That's why it's good. You do both.
Yeah,
You go
I gotta
back
do
and
both,
forth.
yeah.
And there's a community. I think there's more community in the comedy New York
Yes.
scene.
Well, there's more hanging out too.
That's what
There's
I mean.
also like there's young comics, there's older in LA. It's very, which I kind of like about LA a little bit, is like it's just very. You go, you do your work, and you leave. There's something nice about that.
That's true.
Because New York, as you get older, the hanging out all
Yes,
the time. It
yes.
does get.
You
a
don't
little
have
crazy.
to hang out.
No,
you
you
could
don't.
just go in
But
and
you can.
leave.
And then Tim goes on to list, in my opinion, his most valid reason for why Austin will never be the new LA, as Joe Rogan says it will. And that's simply because Austin will never reach the insane amount of wealth that California has. Like basically the enormous tech companies worth trillions of dollars in Northern California will always keep Los Angeles afloat. And as you'll see shortly here, Tim kind of points out that every time Joe Rogan said LA was on the brink of disaster, nothing ever really happened.
I mean, I'll just say this: every time something happens, people go, "This is the thing,"
Right.
and
it
then
isn't.
it's never really the thing. So I don't know if the reason LA is able to run is because you have like this economy in Northern California that's like $8 trillion because it's all the big tech companies. And they kind of run it off that, like the way that California is able to run. They run it off this really consolidated, huge bundle of money.
But what
up
if they
in
leave?
Northern California? They're not going to leave.
All right.
Because they got to recruit out of Stanford. That's one of the reasons Austin didn't work. You can't recruit out of Rice University in Houston. Do it a little bit. But
Yeah.
you need Stanford.
Yeah.
That's the
Interesting.
thing. It's like people talk about, is this thing going to be the new Hollywood? You go, no, Hollywood's dead forever.
Right.
But the Hollywood, you can't just make a thing what you want it to be in a week. You can't just go, Miami's the new Wall Street. You just can't do that.
No.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't work like that. Areas have cultures that develop for very long periods of time.
Yeah.
Everything's developed in a certain way where you go, oh, well, we'll just move all the tech things somewhere else. You go, yeah, but the literal Ivy League school that has the biggest, all of these tech guys are coming out of is Stanford.
Right.
I didn't know
So
that.
you can't, you know, that's one of the reasons that Stanford, and the Bay Area is the Bay Area, right? Like it's not just an act, you know. So I think that like that's the difficulty about, you know,
Completely agree. You can't take Hollywood and go, it's going to be in Houston now.
right.
So, according to Tim Dillon, unless Austin somehow stumbles upon a $1 trillion industry worthy of passing California's GDP, it just won't become this huge capital of comedy like Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan make it out to be. And being that California alone has the 4th largest GDP in the world, only being behind Germany, China, and the United States itself, that I don't think LA is really going into the dark days like Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen claim it to be. And the reason I bring up Dumb and Dumber is because they're the latest guys in that Rogan sphere that are making their move out to Austin. And when you take Tim Dillon's point of view into perspective, it really makes the move seem even worse than it already was. I mean, sure, it makes sense for Brian Callen to move there, since he at least has some smidgen of comedic value. I mean, Joe Rogan's pretty much promised him a regular spot at the mothership, and honestly, he probably bought him a mansion at this point, which they'd probably keep on the DL since they don't want Schaub to get all butthurt about it. But for Schaub, man, I think he's just in for a rude awakening. I mean, the only thing he's got left to cling on to is this right-wing trucker bro grift, where he essentially just scams people into buying his merch so they can increase their odds into winning a souped-up truck. And he seems to really be leaning into that now, as his new merch line has symbols in it eerily similar to some of the symbolism used by the German guys during World War II. But that's for an entirely different video. Getting back to the point, it's going to be pretty satisfying to watch the slow burnout of the Austin comedy scene. Like, I think it's already reached its peak, and more people just see it as the place where unfunny right-wing comedians go to die. I mean, the only thing that the mothership's got going for it right now is that it's home to Kill Tony. And that show is dying out too. Like, after that whole Netflix disaster, people have started to wake up to just how shitty that show's gotten nowadays. So being that that's the biggest thing the mothership's known for, then I think it's going to reach its end. And I hope, it happens very slowly and in the most cringe way possible. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. If you've made it all the way to the end, then you might as well hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, thank you for watching.